Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, with Methodz responding to what OpTic might well think about the Crimsix tweet situation from last weekend. Temp has also revealed why Paris Legion don't get any scrims right now. Not just because they're absolutely terrible, of course OpTic seemed to know that from quite some months ago, but also because Temp was making some gameplay videos of scrim footage, and apparently teams are trying to take revenge by not scrimming Paris at all. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to discuss today. Firstly, wanted to mention this. Apex Legends Esports, they've officially kind of confirmed their team skins into the game. They've got, you know, Crazy Raccoon, NRG, TSM, Team Liquid. They've all got the team skins. Now, I think, look, these aren't, well, honestly, they're pretty damn good. They're not as spectacular as maybe in other games. I think Rainbow Six has some pretty great ones, but still, this is way better, man, than what we ever get in Call of Duty. It's so sad to see that this type of stuff comes out. Like, it's really well done. They've obviously, like, got some event coming soon as well, that they've released this just in time for that. So, this is just, goes to show what can be done. If this was the case with all the CDL teams, it'd be absolutely fantastic. Like, look, we do have the CDL skins in the game, but they're just so bad compared to this, like, so, well, unoriginal, let's just say. Also, like, the teams haven't really got to design them. That's what Hex has always been talking about, that it'd be great if the teams themselves can actually design these camos, like, well, and say to the league, this is what we want it to look like, because it saves, well, Activision, theoretically, effort, and, like, they don't have to get their designers to do it, and also, theoretically, it should sell way more, right? And even as Doug says in the replies right here, imagine if we could do crowdfunding with the COD League. This is, like, something that we've talked about for quite some time here. I remember even like Hex and Hastro, they talked about this in a podcast not that long ago when they were talking about, okay, crowdfunding, they've talked to the league, all the owners want to make it happen, but for some reason the league or Activision just can't make it work. The lawyers, they're at it again. I don't know. The idea of crowdfunding is effectively that skins like this, when people buy them, you can take, 50% of that revenue, for example, goes straight to the developers and Activision and their bottom line, but then 50% of the revenue goes straight to, let's just say, the prize pool for the World Championship. You don't even need 50%, 20% is enough, because a lot of these skins would sell if they're any good. That's something that would be massive for Call of Duty, but seemingly it's never going to be the case. Who knows? Like, if Microsoft come in, they buy out Activision, things might change in terms of the philosophy, but it's just so frustrating, and even to Kenny right here seems to be pretty frustrated what he's looking at in comparison to what happens in the Call of Duty world, right? Even as Fox says from Rainbow Six, that, the team skins of Rainbow Six are even way better than other games, way more could have been done, and Kenny's like, well, yeah, way more could have been done with these Apex Legends skins, then you better see the Call of Duty skins, right, and see what's happening over there. Now let's talk OpTic, of course. They've had a difficult time so far, 1-3 in these qualifiers. Of course, look, if they do start in the losers bracket, it's going to be a really tough task for them to make a run, but honestly, like, the run that they might have to make if they do start in losers could be crazy, just because this tournament is going to be insane, with every team needing a good result that isn't qualified for the World Championship, right? You've got Minnesota, Florida, New York Subliners, like, even Toronto, as we talked about earlier today, all in that ballpark of, like, needing victories to make sure that they're good enough for the World Championship. Now, if OpTic come through the losers bracket and start in losers, and they play Minnesota round 1, Los Angeles Guerrillas round 1, or something like that, right, and they find themselves in a spot where the other team, like, has to beat them, and OpTic are just, let's say, theoretically the demon to the losers bracket, and they knock out a load of teams that New York would like to lose, for example, it could be a crazy story, but I still think there's a decent chance they make winners, but it is, of course, far from guaranteed. iLLey's been back on the grind. We know that this guy will play as much Call of Duty as he possibly can. We've got Mohawk playing some Chals, like, iLLey's going through, saying, okay, yeah, Chal will go to the maximum. It's like, yeah, iLLey, of course, he's back in business, seemingly, and that's been a key talking point, really, the last few days. Okay, OpTic, they need to just put their heads down and grind, final push for the rest of the season. iLLey, of course, is going to do that, and, well, hopefully it's going to inspire the rest of the team to do exactly the same, because Rambo was saying a few days ago that, he was trying to make sure that the kind of mindset and mentality of the team is back on the same page like they were earlier on this year. Now, Methodz actually has some thoughts on the kind of Crimsix tweet that came out a couple of days ago, because, of course, Crim tweeted this out, 10,000 likes or so on Twitter after the fact, but I thought it was rather interesting, because, yeah, he's obviously firing some shots at some of the players individually, but also this comment, right, you guys should probably get in the hill, which actually contains some pretty reasonable advice, I think, for OpTic, based on what we saw, for example, on the Bacage in the game 1 that, of course, they lost to New York in the series that they played last weekend. But Methodz kind of says about this tweet from Crimsix, like, look, it's a pretty funny tweet if you're not an OpTic player, but if you are an OpTic player, I'd be absolutely fuming at this, right? And Methodz kind of agrees that if he saw this and he was a player that was getting targeted by this, he wouldn't be happy at all. Well, I guess rile him up to try and beat Crim next time. And who knows, like, if we do get an OpTic versus New York rematch at the Major, and OpTic were to knock out New York to stop him going to the World Championship, that'd be quite a storyline. But of course, that the storyline could also very much work the other way around.
Thoughts on Crim's tweet? That guy's a moron, dude. It was a funny tweet. Is it? It's a funny tweet if you're not on OpTic, I think, is my opinion. If I was on OpTic, I'd be fuming at that tweet.
So if you were the OpTic guys, like, would you be fuming about seeing this tweet here from Crimsix? Like, I mean, look, you can't be too fuming at the end of the day because, like, Crimsix did beat you fair and square. He gets to talk his trash. That's kind of the way it worked. And he's also giving you some good advice, right? Get in the hill a bit more often, rethink the way you're playing your hardpoint gameplay. That's at least one way to look at it. But of course, earlier on this season, we also saw the talking point from OpTic, especially, I think it initially came out from Temp himself, where he was saying on Zuma's stream that, pretty much no teams want to scrim Paris because they're so bad, right? They got botted in every single scrim, and therefore, like, no teams want to scrim them because it's not good practice at all. Like, let's say you're an OpTic, a stage 1, early stage 2 OpTic, and you're playing Paris, you're just going to body them in scrims 8-0 every single time. So what's the point even playing them? You're only giving away knowledge. You're not practicing yourself, because if you can beat Paris so easily, it's like playing a ranked play match, right? You're not really going to learn, not really going to be so effective, because you can get away with bad habits and still win scrims. Whereas the idea is you play a good team in scrims, such that if you make mistakes, you get punished for it, and therefore you learn not to make mistakes. I guess that's the theory. And therefore OpTic earlier this season decided, yeah, we're not going to play Paris at all because they're just too bad. Now, turns out over the last few weeks or so, the Paris seemed to make some strides, right? They got in a position where they were apparently kind of frying in scrims. Even the likes of Octane said, and other players, even Rambo mentions, that he's heard that a lot of the Paris guys, they've been playing matches, they've been playing scrims, doing rather well. Temp even said coming into this stage that other teams got to watch out, because if they don't, Paris are going to take some wins off key teams, kind of screw up their championship hopes. Now look, that still could happen, right? This week they play Mutineers and they play the Minnesota Rokkr. So those are, if there's any two winnable series right now for Paris, those two are certainly there. I think Minnesota will beat them. I do think Florida are a bit suspect though still, because the respawns, like, look, if it goes to a Bacage hardpoint map 1, I can see Paris winning that potentially. So there is a potential world in which Paris still do something here. But there was all this talk coming into this stage that, okay, Paris are back with Johnny in the team, they're frying, they're looking good. Like, OpTic seemed kind of nervous about playing Paris, right? And Ramo was like, well, they've been looking good in scrims. It's tough to say if we're going to beat them easily. And in fairness, it wasn't that easy, but still, Paris just got destroyed by pretty much everyone they played so far this stage, as is usually the case. So once again, they're in that situation, Paris, where nobody really wants to scrim against them, right? Because which of the top teams wants to play Paris in a scrim match when they can either play another team that isn't a Paris Legion, doesn't have 20 points in the league and has a bit more than that, or they can play maybe a top amateur team that might be better, right? Chrome was kind of roasting him on the Breaker Boy podcast last night, saying that Paris would really struggle to win a Challengers Cup, right? So if you're a pro team, you might well just prefer to play one of the top Challenger teams than Paris right now, which might be an arguable fact. So Temp kind of explains this, that, okay, no one really wants to play us now. Everyone's kind of blacklisting us from scrims because we're so bad. Someone's going to scrim us. It might just be amateur teams though, but also saying that apparently due to him uploading some scrim results or some scrim matches, I think it was only one map or so, a week or so ago, teams now don't want to play them because they're kind of concerned about revealing their strats.
Because teams don't want to scrim. Apparently, teams don't want to scrim us because we lose. That's the main reason. But apparently another reason teams don't want to scrim us was because I uploaded one gameplay video of a scrim. You know what I'm saying? But I'm giving away scrim footage. But they gonna have to. Someone gonna have to scrim us regardless. You know what I'm saying?
So I think I even mentioned this at the time, actually, when he uploaded this 6 days ago. Best Bacage AR player, 47 and 25 versus Royal Ravens. This is a scrim against the Ravens guys. And apparently after uploading this, maybe Ravens themselves or other teams are now not happy playing Paris because effectively they want to get back at Temp in a way for putting this video up on YouTube, which is kind of crazy to me because, like, okay, that's 10,000 views. I guess, look, if you're a London Royal Ravens, you might be kind of frustrated if he didn't tell you that he was going to do this or get permission or whatever, that your scrim is now up there and potentially other teams can look at the way that Ravens play Bacage through the eyes of Temp on the other team. That is maybe plausible, but I still think that's a bit of an overreaction for the pros, right? We saw this early this season when a lot of teams were telling OpTic, or even actually it was Methodz that was getting told by OpTic, I think, that, we don't want you to stream when we're playing scrims because you're going to reveal what we're doing to other teams, even though it's not our point of view which is actually being streamed. So is there really any merit to this for the other teams to say to Temp that actually, like, look, because you're uploading matches, that's kind of going against the good faith and therefore, like, we're going to blacklist you from scrims because of this reason? Or are they kind of just coming up with an excuse not to play Paris because they don't want to play them to give them knowledge? Because, if you're just going to beat Paris every single scrim, you're giving away more information than you are learning. But at the same time, apparently Paris are good in scrims, right? So yeah, tough to say whether they actually believe the words they're saying in that they're kind of blacklisting Temp and Paris for leaking their scrims like this one, or whether it's kind of just a cover up for not wanting to play Paris in general, right? But yeah, I do wonder because this is obviously a scrim that went down back in, I guess, December last year between OpTic and Paris. This is a Bacage, for example, a classic OpTic scoreline here, 187 to 166 on this map. I'm not even sure it's possible to get that low unless you're, of course, in the Thieves versus Mutineer series where they were just trying to throw, and even in that one, I think they scored more points on Bacage than this particular series. But yeah, I do wonder when the last time is that these guys actually scrimmed Paris, because it seemed like relatively early on, OpTic realized, yeah, we don't want to play these guys, there's nothing to be gained by playing them, and now, of course, there are many reasons that other teams as well might do exactly the same thing. So Paris, seemingly blacklisted from scrims, doesn't put them in the best spot theoretically to, well, make a performance in the last week or so, but if they can possibly salvage a win from somewhere, however unlikely it is, they can put themselves in a position to actually make some upsets, right? Temp did say, like, look, he's coming for blood, he wants to make sure that some teams don't make it out, or, like, basically they can screw over some teams, seasons, play upset to a degree, and that's the thing. Both Minnesota and Florida currently tied on points, both of them need every win they can get, and I'm sure New York would be very happy indeed if one of those teams loses to Paris, or both of those teams lose to Paris, because right now New York are on 110. If, let's say, Minnesota and Florida both go 0-2 this week, then they'll still be on 120, and therefore New York could potentially tie up on that front. But if they beat Paris, Minnesota, and Florida Mutineers, then then they're still in a situation where they have the advantage theoretically going into the major. So New York, I'm sure, are giving Temp some dollars under the table to say, look, please just go all out this week and actually get some victories on the board. This just to mention as well from Pred and Simp kind of have an interesting discussion here. This COD season has gone so fast, drama tweaking. As soon as it starts, it flies by. Swear it into a week, always flies by. 5 weeks left, actually crazy. I kind of do agree with this, right? Certainly the last couple of months have just disappeared. I really think that, like, the mid-season break was just tragic, right? Like, if there was one more event, it really would make the season way better. I honestly like the way that they formatted this season if there was just more of it, you know what I mean? Like, the way that it works with the qualifiers going into the major around the world, like, it makes a lot of sense, right? But the fact that there's only 4 majors, there was the Prime Classic, which wasn't as well done as it could have been. Like, the venue was sorted out last minute, wasn't particularly good. The Kickoff Classic was so late after the start of the game when the game actually launched, and the fact that the game or the season ended at the start of August, when in previous seasons it's ended at least a month or so later, is pretty tragic. But I think a format similar to this one, if next season they take this format, improve on it, bring it earlier in the season, have more events, maybe end off the season with a World Cup style thing, then we are really talking, right? But again, it feels like this season has not only been short, but it's actually been shorter than ever, and that's not just because it feels short, it's because actually you look at the numbers, it is short. There's probably less Call of Duty this season that's been played than frankly has ever been played, which does surprise me. I told you guys I'd mention this actually yesterday as well, because yesterday we talked about the most kills in a grand final from World War II. This is the most kills in a grand final from Black Ops 4. So surprisingly low numbers here actually. Pretty sure the highest is Kenny in Anaheim with 37. But certainly in Black Ops 4, the amount of slaying you could do wasn't as high as, of course, in some games. You look back to Advanced Warfare or something, and people were routinely dropping like 45, 50 on certain maps, Retreat Hardpoint, for example, in grand finals. Of course, that's not the case in certain games. This year on Bacage, it certainly is possible. Not always the case either, though. But that's going to do it for today. So very much intrigued to your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button. Tell us YouTube gods, this is a good video. Others like you should see it as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.